It is 4 o'clock. Please stand to sing O Canada. Please be seated. And I'll ask the clerk to give us the roll call.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dicker,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson, present. Councillor Brandon Cable has given notice he will be delayed. Councillor Susan Sackle.
Present. Thank you. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. Welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, October 20th, 2025. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to declare a conflict of interest with item 10.3. The proponents in that item and myself have a long-standing family friendship that I feel I should step back from. So thank you.
Thank you. So noted. Of course, if a declaration of interest should occur during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5, we do not have any agenda additions or deletions, so we'll move right into our delegations. And I would like to ask the ladies from the Hanover Lawn Bowling Club to come up to the podium, please. So welcome. It is my pleasure to recognize and celebrate a truly remarkable achievement by one of our hometown teams. Congratulations to Katrina Carter, Pat Kaufman, Sandy Weatherall, and Jill Calvert-Getz, the Hanover Lawn Bowling team, for claiming the gold medal in the 4th Provincial Lawn Bowling Championship, proudly hosted in June at the Hanover Lawn Bowling Club. Your victory is a testament to skill, focus, and teamwork. Leveraging your home turf advantage, you work together seamlessly to rise to the top of the podium, an accomplishment that makes all of Hanover proud. And your success didn't stop there. Representing Ontario at the National Championship in Edmonton was a tremendous honor and an opportunity to showcase the talent and sportsmanship that defines our community. On behalf of Council and the Town of Hanover, I want to thank each of you for representing Hanover with excellence and for inspiring others to pursue their passions both on and off the lawn bowling green. Please, Council, please join me in congratulating this incredible team on their outstanding achievement.
On behalf of the team, thank you very, very much for your kind words. I just want to clarify that we are a district team, 2 members absolutely from Hanover, and we practiced a lot in Hanover. And we have Sandy from the Chesley Lawn Bowling Club, and I am from the Meaford Lawn Bowling Club. We joined forces early in the new year when I received a phone call asking if I would join this team. And having competed against all of these women, first and foremost, I knew they were wonderful people. And secondly, I knew they were amazing competitors. So it only took me about 5 seconds to say, sure, I'll give it a go. So we had many practices in Hanover, knowing that that's where the provincials would be held. And we sorted out placement of team members and so on. And we had a very successful day. 2 days, in fact, we were undefeated and we're very honored to represent Ontario at the Nationals. At the Nationals, we, 2 of us had never been to Nationals before, Katrina and myself, not knowing what to expect, but we held our own for sure. We won 4 games, we tied 1, and we lost 1. We were that close from the medal round. And so although at first we were somewhat disappointed, when we stepped back and took a look at our successes, placing 4th in Canada is pretty good. So we were very honored that Katrina received an email from Hanover Town Council suggesting that we each purchase something as a memento for ourselves. And so we each purchased a commemorative Edmonton, Alberta lawn bowling jersey that we are very thankful for. So on behalf of the team, thank you for inviting us today and your kind words.
Thank you for attending, and we appreciate everything you're doing. And if you're okay, we'll take a photo here. That's always so nice when Hanover is represented provincially and nationally, and locally, of course. All right, item 7 on the agenda is council minutes. 7.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from October 6th. I need a mover and seconder before I highlight those minutes. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sackle. I just have a couple of highlights. You'll remember we had a public meeting where we rezoned 265 10th Avenue from residential type 1 and to residential type 3. We also had a second public meeting to rezone 862 8th Avenue North and a third public meeting to rezone 866 8th Avenue North from residential R1 to residential R3. All 3 applications were approved, and we completed the acceptance of J.L. Richards and Associates Limited as the consultant for the Hanover Downtown Plan. We also approved a bylaw for long-term borrowing with FCM, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, for the fire hall. And we appointed MNP, otherwise it was BDO, in case people don't know MMP yet, as our external municipal auditor for 2025 to 2029. And that's all I have for highlights, unless there's any discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 8, we do not have any business arising from the minutes, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And I'll ask if there are any items that anyone wishes to remove for separate discussion. Seeing none, I will ask for a mover and seconder to approve the consent agenda, please. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hocking, all in favor? That is carried. Item 10 is staff reports requiring action. 10.1 is report PW 1825. The subject is blue box recycling options for non-eligible sources. It's from Jamie McCarthy, Manager of Public Works and Projects. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor before Jamie highlights the report. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hocking. The floor is yours, Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. Today I'll be going over my report. As you're aware, the town of Hanover is currently in transition to full producer responsibility for the Blue Box program. This means that the town no longer has financial or operational responsibility for the Blue Box program for eligible sources. Eligible sources are defined as residential properties. At the July 14th meeting, Council directed staff to complete a survey and outreach program to gain additional information on how these changes may impact local businesses and consider options to move forward. Staff did move forward with a survey and soliciting feedback from the IC&I sector in the community. So there are some additional discussion topics I want to touch on. So effective December 31st, 2025, the town of Hanover will fully transition the Blue Box program to EPR, which is end producer responsibility. And this will remove all responsibility for the program. In the summer, municipalities tried to change the regulation and allow small IC&I to also take part in residential curbside collection. Through notices and letters sent to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, they did provide a potential amendment to the regulation. Although through consultation with the producers and other stakeholders, this was determined that it was not feasible and therefore IC&I curbside collection would not be offered. There is a letter attached from Minister Todd McCarthy that does outline that information. So the town survey that went out, it was mailed out indicating how to get to the survey through letters. It was also posted on our social media platforms. Thank you, April, for that. And also I tried to communicate with as many businesses that I came across to please fill out the survey. Due to the Ontario regulation that was not changed, which does not allow for curbside collection of any IC&I property, and further reductions in service that, not reduction in service, but Circular Materials Ontario, they're the ones that are administering the program. They have indicated that commingling of recyclable material at the depots will not be permitted, therefore further restricting the potential solutions that we could provide to any of our businesses. So because we can't have them collected curbside and then we can't have them commingled within our current depot, we would have to provide a standalone recycling depot just for businesses. So in the financial section, I did kind of spell out how much that could potentially cost. And it is, um, it is costly. It would also be an issue operationally to try to recoup these costs through option A. And also, as far as being out there with our staff, it'll be difficult for them to police it as well as to who's coming in and who's dropping off material. Therefore, my recommendation would be option C, and that is to discontinue curbside and depot recycling for ICNI properties within the town of Hanover. This option would provide a path for each business to decide how they want to move forward with recycling, whether that's to take it home or to find other suitable collection haulers through contracts, private contracts that they could get. And then also that would provide any type of reduction in any contamination or problems that we might see in the future, as it has been mentioned that auditing and further inspections might start to occur as this and producer responsibility moves forward in the next following years. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I'm sure they do, but thank you. Let's open it up. Comments, questions? So can you, I'll start. Can you just sort of highlight a bit this, we have a shared landfill site. We have the depot for recycling out there, and Brockton, as in Walkerton, it's a Hanover Walkerton landfill site, not a Brockton Hanover landfill site. Walkerton is not permitting any of their small businesses to use their recycling depots anywhere in Brockton. So would there be confusion if we were to have a depot, have a bin out there? Further confusion, I should say?
Yes, I would think so. If we have other bins for ICNI, it might be difficult to distinguish who's coming in, who's dropping off what material and from where. Currently, that isn't a process, that isn't an activity that is done by staff. They don't card people for using their recycling. We will have a recycling depot in past 2026 to 2028. We signed an agreement, but it's for eligible sources. Now, that would be for people that for residents that cannot get access to recycling curbside, so they'll come to the depot. So that's going to be signed and identified for multi-residential properties, and that's allowable for Hanover and for those selected units that are in Walkerton.
This should be interesting. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Jamie, for the report. I know it's been a much talked about issue, I guess you could say. Are you aware of any options for small and institutional or industrial commercial people to use? In your example, you said, I think a 4-yard bin was the smallest that Waste Management had available. But if there is a small business in town that wants to continue with recycling, is there anybody out there that offers that pickup for them, or like, because right now we aren't even giving them a place, or nobody's giving them a place to even take it unless they have a contractor that'll pick it up and haul it, I guess, to Mount Forest or wherever that centralized depot is. So maybe you don't even know if there is anybody out there, but are there options available for our ICI or properties in town?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dickert. Yeah, there has been some solutions that have been mentioned to me from the business sector here in the town of Hanover. They've mentioned that if it's a small amount of recycling, they would actually just take it home and recycle it like in their own blue box because it'll be taken away. There are also other businesses that have opted to purchase, actually there is a smaller front load bin, and it's a 2-yard bin that Waste Management would, drop off and collect. They cannot provide curbside collection for the ICNI sector, and that's not just the town of Hanover, that's like any other municipality that they have a program, recycling program with. So what they're indicating is that if a business wants a bin, they can get something as small as a 2-yard bin, and then they would have a private contract. And some businesses have actually reached out and priced out what it could cost them to do that. And then some others are like, well, we'll take it to the landfill and we'll recycle it as we can until the end of the year, and then we'll figure it out then. So there are different avenues to recycle.
I guess technically, if the ICI sector is taking it home and putting it in the residential blue box, we're now commingling with the two. But I guess I'm thinking of our downtown area where they don't even have a space to put a 2-yard receptacle or receiver of any type. So I said, I know it's not a situation that we've created here. It's a provincial one. I'm just wondering what options are there for people who might be asking, and it sounds like a missed opportunity on behalf of perhaps the province to, when they initiated this, if their goal was to increase recycling, I think it's actually going to have a negative effect on that. But I'm not sure how we can get that message across, because obviously it's been tried many times. And as we can see in the letter from the minister, that I guess that ship has sailed kind of thing for now, and we'll need to monitor it. But I do feel for these small businesses that want to continue to, recycle and do the proper thing, and there really isn't much of an option for them. So.
Other comments? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was interested to see that there was only the small number of people that actually filled that survey out for the number of businesses that we had. So not sure if the other ones actually have already something in place, or they're just maybe too disappointed to grab a pen and fill it out. I do think that we are making it too difficult for people to do the right thing. So I would expect that the garbage removal will have a heavier load going forward, because people do want to recycle. But if we make it too difficult for them, it will, as a lot of people have mentioned, just end up in the garbage can. And my other question, I guess, is because we're not the first community to have done this, has anyone reached out to the other communities to see what in fact they are doing for the commercial downtown sectors?
Jamie?
Yes, thank you. It depends on the community. Every municipality is a little bit different. I believe I reached out to our Grey County municipalities, and Owen Sound let me know that they had taken a report to their council, their operations committee, and it was asked that they consider weekly and bi-weekly cardboard pickup, which was in my previous report, where it would be shared front yard bins within the downtown core, that then they would share different businesses, and then that would be collected. It is fairly expensive. Other municipalities are trying, as we just were told that IC&I would not be taken, I think, at the end of September. Like, it was just actually quite recent that we were hoping for the best, that the province would include IC&I, and the province is not including IC&I. So it's really looking, depending on the size of the municipality and how many businesses they have, is this something that can be afforded to be either levied or just carried on by the tax base? Which then again goes back to, it's for us, the town of Hanover, it's a small amount of businesses that do use the curbside. It's what was it, like 0.01% overall. For the cost, it just is, it doesn't, it's not affordable. And different municipalities are looking at what they can do to not contaminate their, like not to add recycling to the landfill. But again, it's how much do you want to spend on something like that?
So if it's 1% of the, which is the downtown, and the other 99% are paying for their own removal of this, is there any way that they can work together and perhaps pay one of the bigger retail outlets to actually let them put theirs in with theirs and pay them a portion? Has that option been, I know it would be an individual thing, but is that an option? Can that happen, or are we commingling things again?
Through you, your worship, sorry, Counselor, do you mean individual business owners going to maybe some of those larger business owners and querying if they can hop in with the recycling program that a larger business may have? Is there anything prohibiting that?
Not them.
They absolutely could proceed, independently to find out a means to recycle, which is essentially what this entire result of this program is pushing for. To sort out themselves what they're doing. If I could just go back to one thing you had asked, the response on the survey was certainly rather low. While that could be because people didn't want to do the survey, that seems to happen from time to time. Some of those businesses receive those green bins on an interim basis, which you'll see downtown being used until the end of the year. Those businesses were afforded that. I think some of them feel like they could independently sort out how they were going to get rid of the recycling. Unfortunately, once it's not being picked up anymore, I think some of those businesses are reacting in other ways.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your report. We're trying to revitalize our downtown. We're going through study right now, and I drive up and down our main street and see all these boxes sitting out, and it's sort of not what I want to see as a taxpayer or as a counselor on our main street. And I think to our business owners downtown, with all this confusion, I think we owe them 1 year. I like option B. I think we should let them know we're going to put a bin out at our landfill site for 1 year till we get this sorted out. And I think we owe this to our businesses downtown. They are taxpayers, they are part of our community, and we don't want to turn anyone away. So, and I agree, I think with Councillor Hudson, I think you'll see a lot of recyclables go in the garbage. So I sort of like to give option B a 1 year trial and let our business owners, Main Street people know you got 1 year, sort it out, because there is so much confusion right now.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Fleet, if we were to proceed with that thought on a different option, we would have to vote for the one that's on the floor. And if it failed, then you could put a motion on the floor for that option. So, Andrew?
Sorry, just to acknowledge the councillor's comments. We agree. It's unsightly downtown, right now, like many transition periods of anything. Unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time for people to acclimate to the change. And while we agree that there's some recycling left down there, specifically over a weekend, we have been in contact with those business owners to notify them that it will not be picked up anymore. So we do expect that will cease. That's more so just a misunderstanding over the first few times that the pickup's no longer available.
Sherry, did you want to comment?
The only thing I was going to just, Jamie, those prices, is that based on a certain term of a contract with Waste Management? Like the bins, was that based on a 3-year term or no, 1 year? Thank you.
Okay, give me a second. I need to talk to the clerk here. We might be able to do this differently. Okay, we can change, Harold, sorry, Counselor Fleet. If you wanted to amend the motion, you could, and then we would need a seconder. We would vote on the amendment. And if it passes, then we would vote. We wouldn't vote on the main motion.
Main motion as amended.
The main motion as amended, and if it fails, then we vote on the main motion.
Would like to make the amendment then, the option B, 1 year, and work with our business partners downtown and tell them they have a 1 year time frame here to work out the recycling issues. Just so I'd like to see it be a 1 year term, just to be fair to our business people on our main street.
Correct.
So just to clarify, so we're all clear, Counselor Fleet, do you mean that 1 year, we're basically giving them a 1 year notice that recycling will cease as curbside pickup?
Correct, and and they have 1 year to take it, they have to take it to the landfill site themselves.
They can't go to the landfill. So that cost for 1 year is how much?
It depends how many pickups there are. So if it's just bi-weekly pickup, so 26 overall collections for the 1 year, for those 6 4-yard bins and whatever, it's like $12,000.
So if it was, I know we're only saying there's 18 pickups. What if there was 50, because not everybody filled out that survey and now they know that the town is going to do this? We are now paying for 50 pickups
Then
or
it-
100.
then it's like a weekly pickup, and then it'll turn into potentially $18,000.
Which we have no control over because people will sign up as they know we're doing this. So we have a motion, an amendment from Counselor Fleet. Do we have a seconder? Let's get it on the floor first. Deputy Mayor Dickert seconds it. Discussion, Counselor Hudson.
So can we set a limit of how many pickups it is a year? Like if they're only getting bi-weekly now, the businesses get bi-weekly, do they not currently? Recycling?
Yes.
So it's bi-weekly. Okay, so why we wouldn't need to have 50?
If only, say 18, which we're talking about right now, not everyone filled out that survey. So when other businesses realize that they don't need to go out and find their own method of recycling, they will. So it could become 50 or 100, and then the price keeps going up, which we would have no control over.
So can we limit that? Can we put that as part of?
How
this?
would we determine who the first 18 are and, okay, we reached 20, we're not going anymore? Like, that's not fair to any business. We either have to agree to pay, it could be open-ended. There's no top limit. We have no idea. Because not everyone filled out the survey. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. You said it can't go at the landfill site if you wanted these bins. Was that what I understood?
We can have a separate depot section for recycling for IC&I, but it has to remain completely separate, like from the residential. So circular materials is still going to be collecting and paying for a portion of our depot that covers the eligible units, which are the apartment units, but will not cover any IC&I. So we have to keep them separate. And then that's where businesses can take their materials. But it would be very difficult for staff to have to determine who's an eligible business, who's an eligible residential unit, where they can place their items and where they can't. That's just adding a lot more to the mix.
Yes, logistically, I see it being quite a nightmare. Like we still have the film, plastic and styrofoam. Does that need to be taken away from that general area out at the landfill site, or that can stay there? Waste management will come in and they may go to a roll-off bin rather than the front load bins they have there right now. I don't know what their plan is for the multi-unit residential. Will they be the ones dictating what those bins are? Or I guess there's just the logistics of how that's going to operate out there, and our staff that are going to be facing the public coming in. You know, if you're from a single family residential home, you're not supposed to take anything out there. If you're from an apartment, it's okay. And you know, I look over on 17th Ave and I see those 4-unit houses that have the carts out in front of them, but then you go behind them, the same property owner, and they don't have that option. So I really don't know how this is being managed or how we're going to govern it. It's quite a challenge.
Councillor Hawking?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your report. You know, I agree with Councillor Fleets on the whole idea of support, but then I hear what Andrew said, and I think there's a bit of a knee jerk because we still have a couple of months, do we not? And this may evolve as people get used to it. So I think if we jump the gun right now, we would be creating a huge nightmare for everyone rather than let the process evolve for a couple of months. And then if it's still in a mess, we deal with it then. But Harold's right on, sorry, Councillor Fleet's right on. We need to support our downtown, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get, you know, a good accurate number, because you're absolutely right, Your Worship. It could, what did you say, 165 businesses in the report and 18 respond? You could be faced with a huge bill if all of a sudden, oh, yippee, I don't have to worry for a year. And so my point is, I guess I'm supporting everyone, which is, you know, what a politician should do, right? But Harold's right on, I'm sorry, Councillor Fleet's right on, and Andrew's right on. I'm just saying, keep that motion sort of in the abeyance until we let the process evolve for a couple of months, and it may resolve itself. Thank you.
So just to be clear, explain to me, if we were to go with Councillor Fleet's pickup, we would have to contract with someone to pick up from these businesses, and they will take the recyclables somewhere other than our landfill.
So if we were to contract with Waste Management, who's going in there anyways, because they have the recycling contract for Hanover, businesses would need to take their recycling to the landfill, to the identified bins. And then once they're full, depending on whether that's in a week, whether that's in 2 weeks, then they would come and empty those.
But my understanding is you're looking at pickup? No?
No, I had made the comment that you've got to take it yourself. And I just got one more question here, and this is probably a no. What about putting at our town works the bin? And there's a certain day that and they're given some sort of card, and they bring the recyclables, say on a Monday morning to between 9 and 11 o'clock to our town works building. And that's where that container is kept, and that's where waste management empties it. But it's up to the individual business person to get that to that location.
Speaking from history, there was recycle bins in the industrial park at one time. they were abused so much that they were removed. There was a mix of what's recyclable and what isn't. Anyone and everyone was using them, and it was put in there as to assist residents, and it was removed. Jamie?
That is one of the main reasons why I saw a report from Brockton, and they're removing their recycling depots as well. That way it removes potential, abuse of the recycling depots. So they have 3 that they are no longer going to be having within the municipality of Brockton. And it's not just Brockton, there's other municipalities as well that are removing their depots. Because they cannot, it's very difficult to monitor and police. And it should be, as this progresses in the future, there's been so many changes up to now. Maybe they will take on, like circular materials will take on, more, but that should be for them to do, as they are the ones that regulate it and and are in charge of making sure that recycling targets are hit. So.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do see some challenges because of some of our larger ICI residents would see that as a free option. They could opt out of what they're already doing and could create more problems down the road. So perhaps we just need to rip the Band-Aid off and see where it goes.
Welcome, Councillor Cable. The floor is yours if you have comments.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not entirely sure what Councillor Fleet's comments were related to option A or B. But certainly I think I would be open to the idea of perhaps a 12-month pilot of option B, where we can then kind of assess the need for this going forward. While the move to producer responsibility has eliminated the town's costs for recycling collection, it has negatively impacted a segment of businesses which previously relied on municipally organized collection. And I would remind council that in 2024, our recycling contract was $230,000, of which we only received $103,000 from Stewardship Ontario funding, and the net difference was essentially covered through bag tag revenue. So I do feel like if we were to look back at the overall cost to do this based on the projections, it could be something that we could pilot for 12 months in order to help out our particularly small businesses who will struggle with collection going forward. I also think if you read the survey results, I think it is fairly clear that it is much cheaper for a business to pay the $2.50 bag tag and send all the recycling to the landfill as opposed to paying the estimated cost in option A. So I think we just have to be cognizant of the fact that commercial properties do pay 1.3 times the residential rate for taxes, and this would be a goodwill gesture for us.
Thank you. And Andrew or Jamie, correct me, the $2.50 bag tag is for clear bags on curbside pickup. If you were to take a clear bag out to the landfill, you would pay an initial $10 charge, whether whether you have 1 bag or 10 bags, right? So just so everyone is clear on that, like if you were to take your recycles out in the back of your truck and you're going right to the landfill, you're paying a tipping fee at $12 or higher, depending on the weight. So I think what I would like to suggest, because I'm not comfortable with option B with no limit, no cap on it. We could be getting into thousands and thousands of dollars, and we're just agreeing to it right now. So we can either vote on it, or we can ask staff to come back with what the top limit would be on option B, at maybe 100 businesses. Just my thoughts. You know how we don't like being open-ended. Counselor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's exactly it. It's too open-ended right now. We don't have a number. We've got 18 that completed the survey. We got 165 businesses out there. I think we need to get some idea who's going to opt in. And maybe you send a notice out, you have a deadline date by such and you sign up, you're eligible, but we still don't know the cost. So I like your idea of taking this back to staff, get a report and get a recommendation of how we move forward. Keeping in mind, we do want to support our downtown merchants. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn to the clerk now. Do we need to vote on the amendment and the main motion? And how do we go about this? No, I cannot make a motion sitting in this chair. I would have to step out of the chair to make that, but
So that was just a comment about.
that was a comment.
Okay.
Unless someone makes a further amendment to defer or to give direction to staff to come back with a report. And before I take that, I'll go to Councillor Cable online.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just agreeing with Councillor Hawking that I think getting more information and a clear sign up would be important. It's my understanding that according to the report, residents that live in apartment buildings will still have bins at the landfill. So I would assume therefore that somehow that's going to be monitored in terms of who's dropping off their recycling. So I'm assuming that that person is monitoring those bins, would also be able to monitor these IC&I bins. And hopefully, if we have a prescribed list, we had 32 businesses that completed the survey. Once we go forward, those are the businesses who are eligible to drop off their waste, and it's not a free-for-all. I do think that some of those logistics would be important to work out.
So, Councillor Cable, I'd like to say that if we are going to monitor, and this may come back in a report, the bin at the landfill, it will probably involve another staff individual. There is no way one person can monitor what's going on out there with all these new regulations. So I think it's important that we have more information and actually know what it may cost us. This could cost us $50,000 into our budget, plus a staff person. Jamie?
Thank you, Mayor sorry, Mayor Patterson. My apologies. I think it might be difficult to try to gauge the use of the recycling. Like I was taking a general amount of recycling that I saw when I was, walking downtown, or what I've seen out at the landfill when a business came through and dropped off their recycling. There are peaks as well in the seasons, depending on what type of business is requiring to drop off materials at the recycling facility. It could be higher in the spring and in the fall, or whatnot. I think that by providing the IC&I community with these 2 months of getting still curbside collection at a much higher rate than what a curbside pickup costs now, I think if anything, adding more confusion at the landfill. On Saturdays, it's very, very busy at the recycling depot and at the landfill. And the staff that we currently have out there try their very best to make sure everything is handled appropriately, but then having to make sure that they're checking IDs and making sure that they're going to the correct bin area versus the other bin area. operational wise, I'm just not sure how, what that may look like. And that's, I'm not too sure. That's a lot of stuff there. But anyways, thank you.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Through your worship, I think what Jamie's partially trying to say is that, it's a massive operational change of how we operate out there. Policing it, we would certainly be in a position where we'd be looking at a worst case scenario thing. If you're looking for kind of an upset limit, we'll be operating on quite a few what ifs, obviously. So if that's council's direction and they want that information, we can provide that the best we can, but it's definitely a dart at a dartboard type of situation, and trying to understand the impact of the staff out there, who quite honestly, the staff that's there now probably aren't capable of performing, what we're potentially asking, unless there's options on only certain days where we allow for certain things. I don't know what that looks like, but staff can go kind of back with that curveball and do the best we can to bring something to council so that you can understand potentially what the impact of that is, if that's council's direction.
The only thing I would add, just from listening to all the comments, is, I'm hearing council say that you'd like staff to, or potentially are suggesting that you'd like staff to engage further with the business community. Business community was given that opportunity to share some of that information. Some chose to complete the survey and some chose not to. I'm not sure staff is going to have the same, if that's kind of the approach that the business community has taken with this piece of input, will it be any different with this enhanced piece, right? Other than calling up every business, which is not probably capacity to be able to do that. So again, business community was asked for input. We received minimal input accordingly. And those that did shared their thoughts accordingly. If there's more, Jamie says she's heard from some who didn't complete. Well, we need you to complete. We can't read minds, right?
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. We have a comprehensive list of which businesses currently have the green bins with the yellow lids. Would that tell us who is currently using curbside collection?
Jamie is saying yes.
So I would assume that it's only those businesses that we're looking at.
Through you, your worship, that would definitely be an assumption, councillor. I don't know if that's a safe assumption.
Anything further, Councillor Cable?
No, I just think that the private collection would be necessarily transferring to this. I think we're just looking at the businesses that were typically using curbside and now don't have that option. So I would assume that the ones that asked for a bin would be the most in need of this service.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. Further to Sherry's comment that they've already had an opportunity, this is like the student who didn't do his homework and you give them a second chance. Would it not be worth our while? And correct me if I'm wrong, does it take a lot of staff involvement to send a survey out saying, we're asking you one more time, we're going to base our decision on this response. Everyone's heard it, or were they told that the first time? If you don't fill it out, it's not going to be included in our decisions. They've now had an opportunity to see the process playing in real life. But if it's a horrendous task to ask them one more time, then I'm agreeing. But I think some didn't take it maybe as seriously as they should have. And now all of a sudden we're faced with this decision, and based on 18, there's got to be more than 18 out of 165 that would require some type. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, anyway, I'd like to see them take another kick at the can. Thanks.
Councillor Sackel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Sherry's right. They have had an opportunity, but helping April with the business retention and expansion survey, I discovered that a lot of business owners just don't like to do surveys. So if Jamie is tasked with sending something out, let's not call it a survey. Let's shape it differently so that we're making an inquiry. We want to know this is what council's looking at. These are the possible options. Perhaps we could phrase it that way, but don't call it a survey, because then they're going to think we're going to have to sit down. It's going to take us a long time. Let's just try to make it simple and get their feedback, and then we're helping everyone, hopefully.
There's one other thing that if we have that depot out at the landfill, there may be more than the 18 that use it. And that's the open-ended part that we don't know. That could increase our cost. So if a business, rather than finding their own solution, knows that the depot's out there, then our cost has now gone up. And we have no idea what that could be. So there's one other way of looking at this. We could stop the curbside collection and maybe in March review it and see what's going on. Andrew?
Through your worship, I agree, and that was what I was thinking. If you really want a business response, you probably will get it starting in 2026. If the service is discontinued at the end of this year and we see what kind of comments we receive in early 2026, there's nothing saying we can't come back based on the comments we received in winter of 2026 or early 2026 or fall. Maybe there's very few that we receive and we're drumming up a lot of what ifs that maybe aren't even there.
Further comments? So we're back to, we still have an amendment on the floor. Chris, sorry.
Was there any thought of talking with the DIA and Chamber? Are they not the major business people in this? And maybe they put something in place for the whole of the Chamber of Commerce and the DIA? We do collect funds for DIA downtown, but I'm pretty sure the 165 isn't just for the downtown area. You're talking all across the area. So isn't that something the Chamber should be part of before the town has to come to task for this? This has been given to them over a year ago. They knew this was coming. Many years. There's many reports in there that Ron had brought forward so many times saying, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, just so you know.
Councillor Cable?
Sorry, Your Worship. Is from some of the comments that are being made, we're talking about just, if we discontinue in 2026. It's my understanding that there's not an option to continue with the green bins with yellow lids, are there? That's not an option, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that applies everywhere, right? Because I was on another municipality's website and it talks about what happens for businesses and it says you will receive a green bin. But that will also be ending, correct? It's not like there is no option for us to do that.
That's correct, Councillor.
All right, so we have, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I think Chris has a good point that perhaps instead of the survey that went out, maybe the DIA, they have their own social media, they have their own mailing addresses to send out to their people to say, okay, here's what's going to happen. What is it that you guys want to do? What is your point? And use those people to generate the information that we want to know here.
We did share our survey through those means. Like the survey that Jamie completed was shared through DIA and Chamber. DIA for sure, because I get their Chamber for sure, because I get their emails. And they did share that on our behalf a number of times. So while it was our survey, they helped us to share that information with their members. I hear what you're saying, have them complete the survey. We'd have to see if they're willing to do that.
And so did they give you any feedback from their participants from the information that they shared on their social media?
The survey was a link directly to our survey, so it wasn't, it was a separate input piece unless Jamie's heard something specifically for DIA or Chamber, and Councillor Fleet's a DIA appointee. Perhaps he's heard from that executive committee, various comments, but
Okay, so if I have this correct, Vicky, we have an amendment to the main motion moved by Councillor Fleet, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dickert, that we use options B, right?
Yes, that the motion be amended to remove option C and replace it with option B. 1 year notice, yes.
Okay. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? 1. Councillor Cable online, in favor or opposed?
And this includes us getting more information.
No, that wasn't part of the amendment. That would have to be a further amendment, but we're past that. We're voting on the first amendment.
I would vote in favor for a 1-year trial.
So can I see the hands again? 1, and Councillor Cable is 2.
Do we need to make another amendment to get more information after this then? Or has that ship sailed?
There can be a further amendment made after we vote on this motion. There can be another amendment put forth to request further information.
Okay.
No 1-year extension. Sorry, yes, once this motion, option B, the 1-year extension is voted on, that's defeated and it cannot be brought back forth into a further amendment for more information.
Okay, so let's do this again. We have the amendment. I have Councillor Fleet in favor and Councillor Cable. Any other councillors, Deputy Mayor, in favor? Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That is defeated. Now we have the main motion, which is option C, to discontinue curbside and depot recycling for institutional, commercial, and industrial, which is the ICI. All in favor? Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. So by supporting option C and considering what Andrew mentioned, there's nothing stopping us from revisiting this in the new year. So by supporting option C, if it comes back in the new year, that's when we can reconsider this.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be put in the motion.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's been moved by Councillor Sackle, seconded by Councillor Hawking, and we're voting on option C. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1. And 2. Councillor Cable. Thank you, Councillor Cable. Had to look for his hand on the screen. All right, that was a good discussion. Interesting. Oh, that was carried. It's the clerk looking after me. And I'm sure we will hear, as Andrew mentioned and I mentioned, that we will hear in the new year. And we will revisit it again if needed. Thanks, Jamie. All right, item 10.2 is report PB 1825. This is assumption of municipal roads. It's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Development and Infrastructure, and also our CBO. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. In June of 2019, Town of Hanover entered into a subdivision agreement for the establishment of the plan of subdivision known as Saugeen Cedar Heights east under registered plan 16M72. Subsequent to the initial passing, there were 2 amendments on that plan of subdivision, adding some additional lots. The proposed bylaw in front of you today seeks to officially assume some specific lands within the town as municipal roads under the authority of Section 31 of the Municipal Act. The roads laid out within the plan of subdivision herein are 14th Street, 25th Ave, 26th Ave, and 13th Street, all within registered plan 16M-72. This also would include blocks 82 and 85 within the plan of subdivision, which are open space as well as the trail to the east portion of the lands. Bylaw 3354-25 will officially transfer the responsibility for maintaining and managing these roads to the town, ensuring they meet the municipal standards. The clerk will issue notices to the property owners, consulting engineers, and the town solicitor, and complete any documentation or legal steps necessary to finalize the transfer herein. Town staff have completed preliminary walkthroughs of the property to review sidewalks, curbs and gutters, sewers, outlets, inlets, and public works staff don't have concerns with that at this time. Town staff will also complete deficiency reviews post-winter and then one at a final 1-year warranty period at the date of passing of the bylaw next year. The recommendation before you is that report PB 18-25, assumption of municipal roads, be received, and that council pass bylaw number 3354-25 to assume certain lands as municipal roads, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Dickert?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Andrew. When would this be effective, I guess? As of what date would we be assuming that eastern section of the trail?
Through your worship, the date of the bylaw, the passing of the bylaw. Now, town staff have been mowing the lawn of the adjacent portions of that trail as well as the boulevards for the last few years as it stands. But the trail itself would be started to be maintained by our staff at the passing of this bylaw.
Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to confirm, so you're saying this does include the switchback, that area?
Through your worship, sorry, Councillor, you cut out a bit, but yes, this would include the switchback is all I heard. But yes, the switchback and the trail portion below that to the north.
So I just would be hesitant because having used that section free, is there a certain standard that we would want it at before we assume it? Like there's some issues on that section of the trail, which really should be addressed. Does that get cleared up before we?
Through you, your worship, we can. I can't hear everything you're saying, Councillor. We do have engineering reports on the design and install of the switchback itself. If there's some deficient items on the trail itself, town staff has the ability to complete a deficiency list and provide notice to the owner that needs to be completed and signed off as part of a deficiency. We could take that approach. I don't have any comments on the trail portion itself, but that's certainly an avenue we could take if there's a concern from someone's perspective on a certain stance on the trail.
Okay, Councillor Cable?
Yes, I would certainly hope that we look at this before we assume it, because otherwise I think we're gonna be spending a lot of town staff time maintaining that section every year.
Pardon? Okay, staff will look after that. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of report PB 1825? That is carried. Item 10.3 is report PB 1925. This is declaration of land surplus to the needs of the municipality. It's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Development and Infrastructure and CBO. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Councillor Sacco. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. In July of 2025, staff received a complaint from neighboring property owners in the 300 block of 2nd Ave with respect to a development occurring in a homeowner's rear yard, which was perceived to have extended onto town-owned property. Town staff did investigate and found that a homeowner had extended a sports pad that they were intending to put in their rear yard onto portions of the town's property. Staff requested that work cease, which the owner complied at the time. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority was also contacted by way of the town and by way of same complainant property owners about the development in the rear yard. The current condition of the properties that are before you here at hand, there is 7 properties, one being a double lot property. The condition of the rear yards of these properties along 2nd Ave is grassed and wooded areas, which essentially extend back to our trail network on the western boundary of the town. The entire area of the areas within the Block 101, as shown on the plan herein, is regulated by Saugeen Valley. Some properties currently, upon investigation, have some existing storage structures, fences, fire pits, all within the town-owned portion of the lands. Looks to us like it's been like that for some time. Essentially, everything on the town-owned properties are would be considered temporary structures and could be removed fairly insignificantly if required. To put it simply, many of these homeowners, not all of them, have been using some town-owned properties as an extension of their property in the past, understandably from time to time. Historically on these properties, many of them have put in swimming pools, to be specific, within their own portion of the property. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has been required to provide a permit for said development, even on private owned lands, if it's adjacent to the regulated area. Many of these property owners have been successful in putting pools in the past, but again, this is just on the private landowner's property as it stands, not on the further town-owned lands as proposed herein. At the request of the town, Saugeen Valley conducted further property inspection on the properties at hand here, specifically Lot 18, where the notice of infraction took place on town-owned properties. The intent of this was, prior to town staff asking for the preparation of a concrete pad to be removed, if any subject development would be possible on these rear yards, if in fact the land was deemed surplus and potentially could be sold to the abutting landowners. Town staff was not going to go through the process of determining if lands could be available under surplus, if there was no possibility of developing said portions of land on the rear yards. SVCA's comments came back that there was areas within these rear yards that could be developable. However, the permit application would have to be made by the property owner. At this time, it's the town, and the town is not making such a permit application at this time. If the portions of land were sold to the landowners, they could make an application, and Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority would approve or not grant a permit depending on the application type. Again, once we looked at Lot 18 and understood that there was some developable area there, staff expanded the area to neighboring properties, which ultimately culminated in the 7 parts that are shown in the drawing attached. I believe that is attachment B. With the proposed sale of lands herein, each property owner would be required to complete a land purchase individually prior to any application being made to Saugeen Valley. Each landowner may require a building permit depending on what type of development they are hoping to achieve on the lot at a future date. There appears to be no current or future town use of any of the properties proposed for this land. The only thing really to speak of back there is there are overhead hydro lines, which on a final registered plan, the town staff would plan on showing an easement there to maintain that access. It's not on there now because town staff own the lands and can provide said access. There are no services or accesses required from there, and any accesses the town would require in future, they can operate off of the trail side of the Block 100 that still remains on the old trail lands. The financial implications, the value of the land has been determined on a few calculations or a formula determining the estimated land value of a residential property in town. There needs to be a correction factor considered for the lot addition value when it's only valuable to one abutting landowner that currently has the street frontage. We could not create new parcels of lands if there wasn't a frontage. The fact that these parts will not be redeveloped by the town in the future, as they cannot. The fact that the lands are within SVCA regulated area requiring all work to be subject to SVCA approval, and that is understood that approvals could be obtained by landowners potentially, and that the purchasers of any properties are prepared to pay for the creation of the survey, the registration of the reference plan, and any associated legal fees at the time of the purchase. The proceeds are noted to go into the Investing in Hanover Fund, which ultimately would culminate in an amount of $68,000 when all the properties are sold. There is, I would say, half of the landowners on initial discussion have an interest in purchasing up front, and the remaining, it may take some time. In the past, town staff have brought reports to council where it was kind of all lots are sold or no lots are sold. That typically is the case when there's lots backing onto developable lands. In this case, the lands aren't developable, so whether 3 sold and 7 didn't, or 6 didn't, as the town does not have a future need for the lots, it doesn't feel like that's really an applicable scenario for what's at hand before you today. Therefore, the link to the strategic plan is healthy and welcoming community and balanced growth, and the recommendation is that report 19-25, declaration of land surplus to the needs of municipality, be received, and that council declare the properties as illustrated in attachment B, being therein described as Part 1 through Part 7 of Block 101, Plan of Subdivision, Blocks A and B, unnamed street, and part of Lot 7, Registered Plan 437, and part of Lot 71 and 72, Concession 1, South of Durham Road, in the town of Hanover, County of Gray, as surplus to the needs of the municipality through resolution, and that staff be directed to negotiate and finalize the lot addition sales within the terms outlined in the report. And I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Andrew. So residents, some may or may not want to purchase the land. If some don't, how does it sit? As surplus? Like 10 years from now, would it still be surplus?
Through your worship, I believe so. If once it's deemed surplus, it would stay as surplus. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have been contacted by one of the neighboring property owners on the 300 block of 2nd Avenue. And first of all, I want to acknowledge Andrew and his support to attempt to clarify the situation to the property owner. As I see from this report, there are three options. Number one, you can pass it. Number two, you can turn it down. And number three, you could defer the report. I'm going to talk about the deferring of the report first of all. Originally, the property owner felt out of the loop, and Andrew cleared the portion from Hanover up this morning very well. The issue still is there that the person cannot get any contact from Saugeen Conservation Authority. And in talking to the owner, he received a letter, or son of the owner received a letter on September the 19th from a particular employee of the Conservation Authority, basically saying, sorry, I can't talk to you because of the potential of legal situations as interpreted by him. He attempted to call, no call. I contacted a representative of the Saugeen Conservation Authority, and the actual wording implies some form of infraction. The infraction could be resolved if the property was sold, because, sorry, not being sold, but turned over to the town of Hanover, which it is right now, and then individuals purchase their allotment. The other part that is an irritant to some of the neighbors is we had a particular property owner who took it upon himself or herself to extend beyond the property limits. And as in Andrew's report, they did comply. But there's an old saying, what you permit, you promote. And the person is saying, oh, I can infringe on any town property, and then I just have to pay my way out by getting what I want down the road. So it has a bit of a smell to it, and the person doesn't feel that that's the proper way things should be done by the town. I'm completely what should I say? Acknowledging the fact that this wrong needs to be righted, but at the same time, the people who made the complaint need to have full communication from all parties. I think the town has stepped up and done a great job in informing them of the process. However, I think the whole part with the Saugeen Authority is still out there, and I understand that it's a private matter, and the conservation cannot speak to anybody else other than certain people. So this person is going to be out of the loop until this is resolved one way or the other. So I've been flipping back and forth. Should we defer it for another 2 weeks? And but I don't think that in talking with individuals, I don't think the deferral is going to be resolved satisfactory by the person making the complaint. And Andrew can clarify that for me. We don't have a policy where surplus lands, people can come to council and say, I don't like it. It's not like a committee of adjustment, or it's not a zoning amendment. It's selling surplus lands. The person that's contacted me supports the town's revenue increase. They personally, to the mayor's point, will not be purchasing it as long as they live there. So your revenue may not reach to what it's supposed to be for a few years. So I guess, Andrew, can you help me out a bit here?
Through your worship, maybe I'll start by saying, you're correct. When there's a notice of infraction on a private property, an abutting landowner or other landowner just really can't get information, whether that's through, the freedom of information or what that might be. So, Saugeen Valley is, I'm sure, just following their policy and doing typically what they do. While I can understand, causing some issues with a property owner, an adjacent property owner, which I can understand when they're just looking for information. I feel like town staff have been very transparent in this process. I've spoken to many of the landowners through the process. It's been a long process. As you can see, the first note of these properties was from July of 2025, and here we are mid-October. It's taken a long time. And really, it would have taken a long time either way, whether there was an infraction on part of this property that really started this process, or if the town staff operationally deemed that there were lands here that should be deemed surplus, and I was bringing you this report anyway. Typically, town staff would recognize some areas of land that, we don't have a need for anymore, and we would pull together a report similar to this and make a recommendation similar. The only difference here is that there's an infraction that happened that really brought it to light, which kind of is making it go a little bit backwards. But at the heart of the report, the declaration of land surplus still stands. While the property owner that you were maybe speaking to doesn't want the property, the town fully understands that. That doesn't mean that maybe a future landowner won't. Certain properties only have so much value to those landowners. They might not see the value in purchasing it. Some of these areas, the slope down to the trail starts closer than others. Some have woodland that extends closer to the house than others. Others have 100 feet of grassed area that they maintain that could be usable. We extrapolated the area, expanded it as much as we thought made sense, using kind of some of those natural features as guidelines, which ultimately brought us to this report here today, Councillor.
Can I just respond? Thank you, Andrew, and I do really appreciate your involvement. You've done an excellent job on this. I guess if we could turn the clock back to the first encounter, and we had the surplus lands, and we had advertised the sale of those surplus lands, and the people had purchased this piece of property, and then my point is they still have to make an application to Saugeen Valley once they own that for a permit. What happens if Saugeen Valley says, yeah, you bought the property, but we're not going to give you the permit? We're out of it, right? Yep. So I think to assure the ratepayer that contacted me, the process still has to go through. If the lands are sold, the person purchasing the land, who really should have hand slapped for going ahead without our approval in the first place, but in essence, by doing that, it brought to light that we have extra land. So it's a convoluted way of selling surplus land, in my opinion. However, the Saugeen Valley thing will not be resolved to the satisfaction of the person that is feeling out of the loop, because that person is not privy to that information. So I guess what I'm saying is I support your report, even though I have a reservation that this person really, really overstepped his or her boundaries to build a cement pad on property that wasn't theirs, that, and it put us in bad light with the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority because we are the owners of that land. So I think this is a lesson of, I don't know what the lesson is. Okay, Andrew?
Yeah, the lesson, counselor, is, when you want to develop something on your property, make sure it's on your property, right? The town has the right not to go back to the infraction because that's in the background of this report because that was why this report's ultimately come to light. But the report still stands.
Would you please contact the landowner and indicate why Saugeen Valley is not returning the calls? Or do you want me to do it?
Well, town staff has been very transparent with all the neighbors, and we will continue to be.
Sure.
To go back to your point, this isn't a convoluted way to do it. It's definitely a backwards way. It should have been, the landowner should come to the town asking if the town would consider selling some land. Town staff would do their research and come back to council with a report, just as the lands potentially would sell. The new landowners with the lot addition will go to Saugeen Valley, get their permits and proceed with their development. And that's typically how this should occur. Unfortunately, this is backwards. Ultimately, the destination is perhaps the same, but it's definitely been backwards in this. And again, we'll continue to be transparent with the landowners. Any neighboring ones will provide information that I'm able to provide, and I'll continue to do that.
Our CAO has a comment.
Thank you.
Council, I want you to think about this if we had a bylaw complaint. It's no different than the complaint that was issued to Saugeen Valley. They have their process and they have their communication parameters. No different than when we receive a bylaw complaint. Some individuals who provide those bylaw complaints think they should be kept in the know. When I say in the know, meaning exactly how it's resolved, what you did, et cetera, et cetera. We can't do that legislatively or from a legal perspective. So I just want to make that comparison a little bit with respect to that. And Andrew's exactly right. I agree. The property owner overstepped their bounds and should realize and learn from this example for sure. But there have been examples before where property owners have come to us and said, we would like to do this. However, we need a bit more land to do that. And to do that, we need a bit more town land. And we have then did our research. Is this something we can do? And declared it surplus and sold it to that property owner to make it happen. Saugeen Valley wasn't involved in that example that I'm referring to, but that's another way the process can happen. And you see a very similar report ahead of you tonight, just not the infraction part.
Councillor Hocking, a final response, and then Councillor Sackle.
No, I think I've occupied enough time. I just think the whole process was turned upside down. People got upset. People felt that they were not, and Andrew mentioned the word transparent. I think we attempted to resolve that this morning. As someone said, well, if they did that when you were in your other position, how would you react? And I just, I'm a counselor now. That's what I have to do. I have to look at what's good for everyone. Was there some errors? Yeah, there was some errors, but I think we will learn from it. And I want to echo what Andrew said. If you're going to build something on property that's not yours, contact the municipality first before you do anything. When I was in real estate along the proposed road, had many homes there. Every time I told them, don't be putting a permanent shed on back there because someday there'll be a road. And, gardens and all these things that people take our town land as being a little extension of their lot and they can do it. They can, but they full well if they could come along and say, move it, buddy, because it's not your property. So anyway, I did what I said I would do. I brought it. I think we've talked this over enough. I thank you, staff, for your support, my education in this, and hopefully the landowner will be pleased with down the road. The insurance part is they still have to go to the Saugeen Conservation Authority for the permit once they own the land. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sackle, then Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Councillor Hawking, for your extensive discussion. I'm going to piggyback on some of the things you said. Real estate. So if I'm to purchase a home and there is some forest, let's say, behind me, is it the real estate company's job to tell me where my property exactly ends? No, it's not.
Is your question to me? I would. I call that my responsibilities. However, they have a lawyer. The lawyer prepares a deed. The deed's on title. They should know exactly. And if I could, I would recommend everybody purchasing a home, get a survey done. There's a bit of plug.
So the answer is no, really. Some do, some don't. I haven't heard anyone use the word penalty when a property owner has maybe gone too far, not consulted the town, not done the survey. There's no penalty in place then?
Do you, Your Worship? I mean, the penalty ultimately is kind of a Part 3 information and, you know, really take a landowner to court or something if we had to. There isn't a fine, so to speak, set out for something like this, no. No, we've never come across it before.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks, Andrew, for that report. I also spoke to the same homeowner as Councillor Hawking did, so I'm not going to repeat all his information. I just have a couple things I want to touch on. So I'm going to go back to Ron Cooper's Don Tedford's when he was in your position. We had property on 17th Street, a lot there, 17th Street, I think it is. And a homeowner wanted to buy a parcel of land, and it was all or nobody. And I think in this case, it should be all or nobody. Personally, I think everybody buys it or nobody buys it, because my second question is, why would I buy it? I can use it.
Yeah, fair. Through Your Worship, I mean, you could buy it and use it as they've been using it anyways. I understand that, but you know, through this process, it's seen that you could do more than just use it. You could potentially put some sort of development on it in terms of a gazebo or a pad or whatever that may be. That does cause people to want to purchase property. And for a nominal fee to expand your property when you go to sell it, you know, it does have more value. So I think in time they will all be sold. The example that you're speaking of is an example where there is an infill where you have backyards abutting each other in many locations. And I 100% agree, in a situation like that, that should be an all or nothing type of purchase, because if one purchases that land, it creates an odd shaped parcel of land, and then it makes the entire portion undevelopable, or it reduces the developability of that lot. In this case, the fact that it's backing on to undevelopable land anyways with no other road frontages, the all or nothing in staff's mind doesn't apply the same as it would when it is creating an unbuildable section of land. This is already unbuildable. This is just providing the opportunity for a landowner to expand their property on an area that the town cannot do anything with it anyway.
I totally agree. And, you know, there are sheds back there probably that are on town property, and we can't police it. Like, how can we police it? If I want to build a gazebo back there, you're not going to be back there going, hey, Mr. Fleet, you can't build that gazebo.
I have. I certainly went into yards before that there were issues on, most definitely. Again, we go on properties like that if usually typically building without a permit. Again, people are typically building on their property. They're just building without a permit. In this case, a permit might not be required anyways, other than from Saugeen Valley, but a building permit might not be required. But we can still review the infraction.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. A lot of this sounds like operational as opposed to governance, which we have been already about. So thank you, Andrew. And my question, I guess, would be if, say, number 18 wanted to buy the property behind number 19, is that possible?
Through your worship, no, that's not what we're proposing. That definitely creates an odd shaped lot, and the parts that have been represented as created would only be subject to purchase from the lot with the frontage immediately abutting.
Perfect. And it is an option for them. So if they feel they want to have more land, great.
I'm going to call the question. All in favor of PB 1925. It's been moved by Councillor Hawking, seconded by Councillor Sacco. All in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed, 1. That is carried. Item 10.4 is report DCS 1725. The subject is the Strong Mayor legislation impact on budget process update. It's from Yelena Savick, Director of Corporate Services. I need a mover and seconder before I ask Yelena to highlight the report. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sacco. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff have met with the mayor to review the timelines that were proposed and approved at the last council meeting. We noted the need for additional time for staff to prepare the required documentation, combine all of the amendments, prepare for the amendment meeting. And so as a result, we have come forth today with a second amendment or a proposed amendment to the schedule that provides staff time to compile and coordinate amendment meetings and ensure that all legislative requirements are met. To that end, we are proposing those amendments in the timeline to the 2026 budget approval process that are highlighted in the report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, will the special meeting that is proposed, is that going to be pre-scheduled, or would a council member have to also request a special meeting and follow the procedure bylaw in order to have that meeting established?
Go ahead, Vicky.
That special meeting has already been called because if there are any amendments submitted, we will have to have a special meeting for council to deal with those amendments. If we receive no amendments, then barring a council member requesting a special meeting because they have an amendment they want to present verbally, then that could be done as well. But what we're doing is scheduling that special meeting to review the budget amendments if there are any.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering if the deadline in the second row for December the 2nd, I'm wondering if that can be moved earlier. My worry would be that if I'm submitting an amendment to the clerk on December the 2nd, I imagine that it would be circulated to council on the 3rd, and then we have our meeting on the 4th, and so it only provides 1 day to review the amendments. So I would prefer for council to have a shorter period of time between the 24th and the 2nd in order to have more time to review any proposed amendments.
I'm sure we can reduce it. We thought we would be giving council time. That's all. Like, we may not have any, we might, but if it's less time, that's fine. So, Yelena, you have a date you would? No, Vicky?
So Counselor Cable, you're asking for a longer period of time, less time for council to review the amendments.
Less time after the mayor tables the budget. So I'm wondering about whether, perhaps if they were submitted to the clerk by the 30th, which I know is a weekend, but if they were submitted by the 30th on the Sunday, and then if they could be circulated to council on the 1st, that would provide the 1st to the 4th for review.
My apology, that was my misunderstanding of your intent. So if we do,
I think you'd need more than a day between the Sunday and the Monday for the clerk to submit that out to everyone. Like, one day isn't enough. Because the 1st is a council meeting, which seems to be a busy day around here. 27th, is that enough time for council? That would give you the Friday and the Monday. Oh. Council package is out on the Friday, so that's no good either.
it would be possible for us to receive the amendments by the 27th and then forward them
Okay,
to the other councilors.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to Councillor Cable. So what I'm looking at this, it looks like we're shortening the time that we would have to review the budget and lengthening the time to talk about the amendments. So to me, I think I need more time to review the entire budget than the amendments. Am I misinterpreting something there?
Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship. Perhaps I'm not clear on how the new process will work. I was envisioning that council would be receiving a budget binder in advance of the 24th, that we would be here for a full day of meeting on the 24th and potentially the 25th. And so after having those 2 days of budget consideration, we would then have a few days to consider any proposed amendments. I think my worry is that if the amendments are due on December the 2nd to the clerk, they're not being circulated to council until the 3rd, and we are then having to come back on the 4th to vote on any amendments.
Yes, you can propose amendments on the 24th while we're going through the budget that full day. Like, you've got your binder, you've read it how many days ahead, and if you have amendments right then, like, are they in writing on that day? They can be verbal on that day too. So as department heads are presenting, you can put an amendment out there, a suggestion amendment, let us know. Everybody talks about it, just like we normally do, right? Right. But they can submit it. Or verbally.
Only verbally at the amendment meeting.
Not on the 24th. Oh, so then it has to go in writing. So it's submitted for this special meeting.
Correct. That is why they need the extra time, as Deputy Mayor Dickert has mentioned. That's why you want the whole weekend to write out all your stuff. Plus you have to go to the department head for the amendment that you want to do. Plus you have to go to finance and ask what that impact is if you take it on or off. So that's why you need a couple more days than just 2 days after our meeting on the 24th to do that. And when you meet on the 4th, you are just discussing the amendments. You're not going through the whole budget again. It's just if there were 5 amendments, here's the 5 amendments you're talking about. That's it. Nothing else. So that's why they have to do their homework, put it in writing, get the directors that they're talking to, and get the financial impacts like the form states.
Go ahead, Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'm just saying that I would prefer more than 1 day to review the amendments. So if there's a way that they would be circulated to council on the 1st, that would be fine. I'm just saying that if I don't receive them until the 3rd and we're meeting on the 4th, that only provides those who work with the evening of the 3rd to review the document.
Can you do the 1st?
Would it be acceptable to have the deadline for council to submit amendments? We're meeting on November 24th. Do you feel it would be fine to have them submitted, the deadline being the 27th? And then distributed, or the 28th, and then distributed to council for the 4th?
It'll be tight for staff to have a council meeting and budget. Like, just to get it all together. It's also our Christmas party, the Friday night. So.
Or the 1st? Yeah.
Through you, your worship, I think the 1st would be better for us and for council itself, because you have a council meeting on the 1st. So on the weekend, you're going to be reading your council package. And then you're going to have a few more items maybe during the day on the 1st that you want to discuss with staff for different areas. Have it closing, bring it at council meeting that night and provide all your amendments. And then that gives us 2 days to put it together, or a day and a half to try and put it all together, depending on how many amendments there are.
Thoughts? Okay, on the 1st?
I think the 1st is fine. I'm just assuming that if they're just being forwarded, then if we were to submit them on the 1st, they'd be circulated to council on the 2nd. So we would have the 2nd and the 3rd to review before we come here on the 4th.
So all we're doing is changing one date from December 2nd to the 1st. The other dates are suitable? Yes. Oh,
Legislated and, but we're revising.
okay. Okay. We have report DCS 1725 as amended, changing December 2nd to the 1st. And that's it. All in favor? That's carried. All right, item 10.5, this is ED 1125, Youth Retention Plan, the Community Hub Concept Proposal. It's from April Marshall, our Economic Development Manager, and Sherry Walden, our CAO. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor April.
Thank you, Your Worship. So to provide some background to this report, as we will recall, in January 2025, Launchpad Skills and Training and Technology Center was formally dissolved. So we, recognizing the significant facility investment and its role in supporting youth development, the town of Hanover committed to further investigating local youth needs to be part of our broader youth retention strategy. With that, we held some focus groups with relevant youth stakeholders in our community, which we had 36 in attendance. And then we also created a survey for youth that we incentivized them to complete. So we got 40 responses. That's the key. Anyways, I digress. So following that, on March 17th, at our special meeting, staff obtained and provided additional youth input through this engagement process, and were asked to further our investigation into partnerships and collaboration to advance development of a youth retention plan with a focus on skill and workforce development. So as we were tasked with this and continuing exploring the feasibility of the 612 10th Street property, as that key component or that would support like a community hub that for youth retention and wellness, skill development, and entrepreneurship, conversations with applicable regional organizations were had. Just to provide a quick summary as well, in the background of this report, we saw from the responses from the youth survey, having a safe space definitely came out as a leading priority for youth in our community, followed by mental health services or having access to mental health services. And we also talked about some of the skill development needs that they see that they have and how they would like to be engaged as a community member moving forward. We also talked through the focus groups and received input about supporting what youth values are, the importance of skill development and supporting that. Youth space also came out in those conversations. And we furthered that with some recommendations about as potentially establishing a youth advisory council, enhancing mental health and mentorship supports, promoting entrepreneurship, improving communications directly to youth, and increasing volunteer and career exploration opportunities. Just furthering this, I just also wanted to provide some context as far as what the 4 County Labor Market Board has highlighted to us in regards to the critical needs that shape the future for a regional workforce. So they're just really highlighting that labor force is aging at a rate higher than the provincial average in our region. And the 4 counties are Grey, Bruce, Huron, Perth. So as a significant portion of workforce are retiring, there is going to be this demographic shift across multiple sectors. We are noting some of the apprenticeship trades, like the cook trades, is significantly declining. So the availability of physical space and equipment, such as an industrial kitchen, could support sparking careers in this trade once again. Moving on to the discussion, Sherry and I, we visited several similar facilities or programs in the area and had a lot of great conversations with stakeholders about what the continued use of 612 10th Street could potentially be and creating that shared vision and collaboration amongst our regional stakeholders. So with that, there is a table here with expressions of interest that we did receive back. I will just quickly kind of touch on them and what their use would be. So they all are supporting that workforce development piece, youth wellness, skill building, and entrepreneurship support. Elephant Thoughts has certainly risen to the top as a primary potential partner. They actually developed their programming based off what Launchpad was doing originally. So you might recall as well that they were in attendance at the council meetings here. They have been a huge support for this continued use of this building, and they're backing it up by providing some support, monetary and in kind. So Elephant Thoughts, they would like to continue their job skills training and culinary arts and trade skills. So they would propose to use, essentially they could use the entire facility, but the kitchen is certainly one of their biggest interests. And they also operate the Collingwood Youth Center. So that's a similar program is there. They have like a youth drop-in program. They have the kitchen, and they have some other technical equipment and things like that to provide the youth in that area. So they're proposing, full-time use and open to taking on a significant amount of financial maintenance Furthering that, we've also discussed opportunities with the Nuclear Innovation Institute, or NII. So they're proposing 4 half-day events in 2026, or 1 per quarter. They really want to expand education inland to raise awareness, communications, and community engagement about the benefits and opportunities in the clean energy sector. So they feel that this building, and they want to support the town of Hanover in use of this building. So they're contributing financially and have some great community and youth engagement events planned. The Well Community Collective, so they are designing hubs across Ontario or across rural regions. This youth wellness hub, or the well that we're speaking to specifically, is here in Perth, Grey, and Bruce counties. So they're really that whole drop-in component. They're serving youth in that age to 12 to 25, and they have full wraparound services. So they're creating those activities, they're creating a council for youth to make decisions, but they're also having those support services on hand should the youth need to access those. They're also a connector to other possible collaborators or service providers in the area as well. We've also spoken to Fanshawe College about running their dual credit program at this facility. And that would be more so on your 7-week program type of idea that's seasonal and based on the school year. The Grey Bruce Makers, we spoke to them about their programming. They offer trades and skills program to the Grey Bruce region. And they essentially, if they were to come to Hanover, they would treat this more like a satellite location and be able to bring that program and access to tools to this area. So that is certainly a test mode because they are concentrated in Owen Sound at the Sydenham campus at this time. They have a few concerns that they would like to talk about as well, but there is interest to collaborate with us there. We've spoken to OYAP, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, looking and talking about creating that field trip destination, much as Launchpad had done, and really collaborating with the secondary school system. SCDC, or the Saugeen Economic Development Corporation, talked about supporting entrepreneurial training, whether that be through the student startup program, or essentially really providing, they seem to have more interest in the wood shop, all areas, but more so maybe the outdoor shack and the icicle tricycle, because that could be an opportunity for young people to run a business that SCDC would help facilitate. We also spoke to a couple local, hyper-local youth organizations such as Youth Unlimited and Bruce Grey Mentorship. And although they don't have accessible funding for this, they would take advantage of the opportunity to use the space to access more youth and grow their programming. Furthering that, the Grey County Business Enterprise Center would look at this as a satellite location that they could meet with their clients and offer that one-on-one support to new people starting a business, or potentially offer workshops in the future. And then you're also familiar probably with the Space Between with Alicia. So she's facilitating teen workshops and courses. She would like to grow into adult courses to support their personal and professional development. And she has a highly regarded program to support that. And she is a big advocate for this space and that community hub concept. So through this EOI process, we have recognized that we do have a diverse group of community stakeholders that have expressed interest in participating in the development of a youth-focused community hub at 612 10th Street. So these stakeholders represent a broad spectrum of services and programming, including youth wellness, skill development, trades training, entrepreneurship, and community engagement. Even furthering that, we've had additional conversations. So I know there's additional support out there from potentially Grey Bruce Habitat for Humanity, potentially Georgian College, the Bruce Grey Catholic District School Board. They're starting to do some outreach community programming. So they have a big interest in leveraging the infrastructure that we have in place. And then, of course, the Fort County Labor Market Board want to continue workforce development programming and support those concepts further as well. So with all this, we have presented some options for you for your consideration, Council. Just taking a look at the expressions of interest and, you know, essentially what it takes to operate this building and what the opportunities are. So as you'll see, there's 4 options before you for discussion. One being Elephant Thoughts as a lead operator. So essentially, we would work with Elephant Thoughts to manage the facility and coordinate partnerships, programming, and maintenance. We would have to determine our town roles, pardon me. There are still some considerations though, being, you know, defining the town roles. The town's role is it in governance, liability, long-term oversight, commitment to sustainability and work. But furthering that as well, we'd have to confirm with the building owner, you know, if this approach is the one that he supports. Essentially, because it could turn into like a sublease. So we'd have to investigate that a little bit further. But with option 1, you're essentially looking at no financial contribution from the town unless we want to have one. Option 2 is the key user collaboration model. So essentially for this one, it's proposing that we work with a core group, and probably it would be four stakeholders. So for example, Elephant Thoughts would be using the kitchen, the Ironworkers Union would be using the welding shop, the Well would be using the front space, office space or event space to host their drop-in program. And then potentially the Grey Bruce makers maybe would be assigned the wood shop, for instance, so they could run their wood shop programming through that space. We could propose, we're proposing striking a governance committee so we can manage collaboratively the space and then ensure that we're working with all stakeholders to deliver an integrated approach. Considerations for this are it requires coordination, really clear agreements, and shared accountability. There could be misalignment between the core users' financial abilities that we would have to work out. And there is next to no opportunity for one-off programming with this because we're clearly identifying that these stakeholders are using this space, and it would essentially, I would think, kind of be at their discretion if they wanted to branch out and allow others to use it. Because we also have to keep in mind as we're going through all of these options, a huge consideration for us is our liability and the equipment, maintaining the equipment, ensuring it's safe, health and safety. These are really key components for us to consider moving forward, like who is responsible at the end of the day, right? So with the option 2, the key user collaborative model, essentially what we're looking at is a projected net contribution from the town of about $15,000. So we're facilitating having those core partners pay on a monthly basis. I also threw in NII into this because I'm assuming and hoping that we would be able to work with them for the event space, thus 4 times a year. Shouldn't be a problem, and then building them into that relationship with those stakeholders. Yeah, so we're talking about our potential revenue with that, and then what our projected expenses could be. So the town would have a financial contribution in that scenario. Option 3 is the town operated model with committee support. So we're talking about, in this circumstance, that the town would operate the facility directly, supported by that committee of the key core users. We would really need town staff to facilitate the bookings, oversee maintenance, and support grant writing and fundraising so that we could further those revenue opportunities. The pros are the municipal oversight ensures alignment with our strategic goals and potential leverage for further funding. Again, considerations, staffing needs, insurance coverage, equipment maintenance, and long-term sustainability. But to effectively implement option 3, it is proposed that we do have a dedicated town staff role that would work as that community hub coordinator, similar to what the Grey County Sydenham campus currently has as far as their multi-use facility. So this position would be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the community hub, including facility scheduling, tenant and partner coordination, maintenance oversight, health and safety compliance. This person would also lead the promotional efforts, manage bookings, support grant writing, fundraising. They would be the primary point of contact. So this option really opens it up. We have our key users, but we're also able to do all those one-off programming and events. The difference being with the old Launchpad model is we're not directly creating that programming and facilitating it. We're creating the environment for that to happen, but we're not directly responsible for it. So we wouldn't need more than this one staff person to operate this facility. This is just really having that key contact and just ensuring that everything is running over there as it should be. So we've also included some key next steps in all of these options too, just to keep us in line with what we would need to do next. But essentially with your option 3, your financial contribution, we're projecting at 63,000 approximately, but that would be at the high end because we're putting a minimal amount of rental revenue in here, and we're maximizing our opportunity for fundraising and donations. And then option 4 is to terminate the lease with no further pursuit of youth-focused community hub model at this location. So with that, we really would need to consider meeting the terms of the lease and the associated costs with this, and we would have no further influence over programming or community impact at that facility. We would be handing it over and allowing the landlord to determine what the best use of that property is moving forward. So as I noted before, just want to loop back to that again about that additional considerations. We really need to consider with options 1, 2, and 3 is the insurance liability coverage for users. The facility must be clearly defined as well as health and safety enforcement responsibilities. Financial capacity, just noting a majority of the expressions of interest respondents indicated limited to no capacity to financially contribute to the space. So we would really have to carefully evaluate its investment and the development of fair and transparent model for cost sharing and subsidization, if that's what we choose to do. I noted equipment maintenance, the ongoing upkeep and upgrades for the specialized equipment, that key contact, because I have learned running a facility doesn't just happen on its own. So people want someone to talk to. There needs to be someone available to work out all these situations. So we really need to consider that moving forward. And just that the user needs continued engagement with users to refine the space, requirements, scheduling, and partnership terms. Just throwing an idea out there as well, just as far as options 1, 2, and 3, if we were to support any of these options, just making a recommendation or suggestion that it could be called the HIP Center, because that is in line with our attraction and retention campaign. The branding is in place, and it supports that broader vision that the town of Hanover has as far as apprenticeship, entrepreneurship, lifestyle, and culture. So I went through the financial applications as we went through the report, so I won't reiterate those at this time unless there's specific questions. And the recommendation is that report ED 1125 Youth Retention Plan Community Hub Concept Proposal be received and that council provides staff with their direction as it relates to the expressions of interest submitted and options provided for the youth retention plan with a focus on skill and workforce development and the continued use of 612 10th Street, Hanover, which is the former Launchpad facility. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, April. Okay, Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, April. That's a lot of information, and I congratulate you on the project you've put before us here. So thank you for that. When I look at the different options and my familiarity with some of the organizations you've talked to, Elephant Thoughts certainly kind of comes to the top because they're offering a lot of the things we talked about from our survey. And the other one that kind of comes to the top for me is The Well. We had the opportunity to attend the announcement when Bruce Power supplied them with $1 million to run that operation, and it seems to also check a lot of the boxes that were identified in the background work you did. So when I look at option one, obviously it kind of jumps out to me from a financial perspective, but it also looks like they are open when it says other points of interest. They say they're they do talk about partnering with others. So have the two of them, The Well and Elephant Thoughts, have they had any discussions at this point in time where that might be the ultimate package that went into that facility, whereas we would address the mental health concerns, the safe space concerns, the trades opportunities that they're looking at, and also when it says they're willing to take on 100% of the financial obligations and maintenance, does that also put that liability side of it more to them?
Through your worship. So we haven't directly aligned any of these expressions of interest together yet to have these conversations because we were just kind of waiting to see what direction we would be taking first. But if we're going to use, I will just say Elephant Thoughts is very open to all possibilities and very supportive. They love the idea of this community hub model and their participation in it. And if we look at what they're doing in Collingwood, it's the Hanley Institute that they use out of Flesherton area that operates the drop-in wellness program for them there. So I was briefly speaking with Jeremy about The Well. So he thought that was really cool, but he said that Hanley Institute might also be an option because they have that established relationship. But I would just say, yes, Elephant Thoughts is very open to all these possibilities. And yes, you're right. We would have to look at, that's what's just unknown with option one at this time, because it does come off as a sublease. So I think it's just, yeah, they potentially could take all that on, and facilitate all the health and safety and the equipment, and the insurance liability and all that stuff. Granted that the building owner is in agreement, he's okay with that. But then again, we would have to identify what is the town role in that? So, are we trusting that process and handing it off to them? And what does that partnership look like for them? But yeah, I would support that they are very open to all of this. Everyone that we've spoken to, when we took this community hub concept, they got super excited about it because they all do want to be working together. So I think just bringing them into this space, great things can happen for sure. But it is a bit of a balancing act right now just to see, because we're creating something really new. I don't really know of any other examples like this. So we are going to learn a little bit as we go. And just, I think depending on what option that council is leaning towards, that's kind of I don't want to use the word dictate, but it's really going to show us where we need to take these conversations next and how do we facilitate our town's portion of that relationship and setting those perimeters for what we would like to see. Because if we're handing it off to Elephant Thoughts, I think we're handing it off to Elephant Thoughts. I don't think we can get in there and start saying, well, we want you to work with this person, we want you to work with that person. That's just from my personal experience of these conversations and kind of how we've laid this out.
Just if, again, I think April, I shouldn't say think, I know April's done a good job with each of the options and specifically with option 1 on page 160. If you look at those next steps, right, like it's very clear that we need to assess that legal and insurance implications of third-party operation. We have to have that conversation with the property owner, et cetera. So when April talks about some unknowns, those are some unknowns right now with respect to option 1.
Deputy Mayor, anything further at this time?
Yes, just they mentioned about moving the welding shop from the main building to the woodworking shop. Was that something they looked at us as a leaseholder doing, or were they prepared to do that on their own?
They did look at doing that, covering that cost on their own. Yes. This actually, if I could, this brings up another good point because I think there are, if the town is managing the space, I think there are some improvements we do want to continue to make there. I'm just going to use the weld shop as an example. I'm learning that it can create issues when there's welding happening and there's someone in the kitchen because sometimes there's dust and things of that nature being put out into that common event space. So I'm also recognizing that that's a big investment to move the welding shops out to the garage or the additional building there. I don't know if space permits it. I don't know what that looks like from a building perspective too. So, you know, they do have commitment to seeing that through, but I also think there could be an opportunity to find other ways to mitigate some of these concerns. Like for instance, we could potentially build a wall, you know, out from the welding shop to define the welding space or to define the event space a little bit better, and just having that hall that comes out from the welding shop and goes out to the back door. That could alleviate some of that stuff there too. But yes, Elephant Thoughts is open to covering some of these leasehold improvement costs. But it's all going to boil down to our agreement with them because they don't know the details of the lease either. So we'd have to work that all out.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. That's a very detailed report, April. Well done. I'm going to speak from experience, albeit it's a long time ago. But in my involvement in starting programs, you want to limit the number of parameters you're dealing with. And I think you want to start with one group. You want to build your synergy around that. And once that's successful, you could expand. So I am totally in favor of option 1. They have a great name. You're dealing with one unit. The difficulty in option 2 is you've got 4 different groups. You got different chemistry, maybe you got different mandates. You might be spending a year just getting them all focused on one objective. With Elephant Thoughts, that's all eliminated. It sounds like you got a good relationship. They've got a good name. What you want to do in Hanover is you want to build a positive vibe that this thing is working. And in my opinion, you know, I go back to when I started co-op back in the 80s. That's a long time ago. That's 40 years ago. But what we did is we picked ideal candidates and we picked ideal employees. And we got rid of all of what we thought would bring a bad image to the program, and it worked. But we started very, very small, and we started building positively. And you look at it today, it's one of the most important programs in secondary school. So I'm going on a bit of a length here, but I think you eliminate your obstacles to be very successful by dealing with option 1. Thank you.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, April, for this thorough report. Well done. Just a couple concerns I have. I look at the financial contributions and, it's not there that what I would have liked to see, not able to contribute, not. And the other one was Saugeen Economic Development with the launch pad. I think they actually there's a dollar amount that they gave to Launchpad. So some of that financial support is sort of smoggy, I guess, to me, or a little bit smoky. I just don't see it there. And, I don't feel that I want to get into, personally, I don't want to get into long-term lease. You lock 5-10 years, I think we need to look at monthly or a yearly lease and see where it is a year from now if we'd go with Elephant Thoughts with number one. And it's just too bad we don't own that building. We're going to own a building, our police station is going to be empty in a couple of years here. And, we talked about youth retention and, there's possibilities there. So I'm not for a long-term lease.
Other comments? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Sherry and April, for your report. Certainly, I know that the decision to reallocate the Launchpad funding in 2025 was controversial, but I do really think that it's forced us as a municipality to reassess what we want to do to support youth and really what are the best models that are out there in order to make that happen. As I think it's been noted on many occasions, the former Launchpad location has many benefits for youth programming given the current infrastructure and its close proximity to the new JDSS building. The town is not a specialist in youth programming, and nor do I think that we should be. And being able to partner with organizations who are skilled in youth programming makes a lot of sense. I really see the town's role being the leaseholder, helping to facilitate partnerships, and then promoting the programs that are happening there. And I also think that it's essential that our trades-based programs, such as the iron workers, really be supported in continuing with their welding instruction and training. So I am in favor of option one, allowing Elephant Thoughts to be the lead at the center. But I would really like to see them be encouraged to engage those other partners, because I think there's a great opportunity for the Well and for Fanshawe College and for the school boards to be able to work together in order to really allow them to most fully utilize that site. So similar to Councillor Fleet, I would like to see the lease extension be on a month by month basis, which is what I was told at one point that the owner would be open to. And I guess hopefully we will receive another report from staff really looking at what are the logistics around the subleasing and then I guess the subleasing, because I'm assuming that the iron workers, for example, would be leasing from Elephant Thoughts, which is leasing from the town, which is leasing from the property owner, and how that works. I also would like to see council consider, however it gets set up, whether it is a $10,000 budget line or funds that go into a reserve in order to assist with some of the upkeep and ongoing costs. It was a huge struggle for Launchpad. Certainly that facility was 10 years old. We had 10-year-old computers, furniture that needed to be replaced. There's really expensive equipment that's in that building, and I just don't see how it's going to be well maintained. And so I would like to see, as part of this arrangement, that the town set aside funds to support youth in the being able to contribute to some of those ongoing costs.
Councillor Sacco.
Well, I think Councillor Cable covered everything I was thinking about. I'm just so pleased that we have a space. We don't have to start new. We don't have to buy a new build. We have an owner who's willing to lease the building to us. We have a carpentry shop. We have that kitchen. We have a lot of stuff. But like Councillor Cable pointed out, yes, the computers are old. The chairs are a mess. The tables, it needs new furniture. So I really like his idea of putting some money aside so that we can deal with upkeep. The commercial kitchen has to be kept top notch. So does the equipment in the carpentry shop. And the welders built onto the back. They put a little extension of sorts. Did they not, April?
No, through your worship, they have like a C can that they have their equipment in, but it's not an extension of the welding shop.
All right, I was wondering if that could be moved over by the carpentry and we could establish something, but that's neither here nor there. That's going to happen in the future if we support. I am in favor of option number one for the same reasons, and I love what the Well is doing. It was just in the news a couple of days ago. No, it was last week, wasn't it? With CKNX News covering the new hub. I think it was Exeter and Goderich. So it sounds wonderful. But if Elephant Thoughts could take that control and we wouldn't have to hire somebody like we did with Launchpad to do that onerous task of being, good at fundraising, good at grant writing, good at organizing all these groups, I'm really happy. So hopefully we'll go with option one. Thank you.
Okay, any other, Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Your Worship. In addition to the maintenance, I think there should also be something stipulated that any changes to the building where those monies would come from, because we have had some discussions about the building being returned to its former state. So we need to be aware of who is doing what, who is paying for what with the lease that is ongoing. When you mentioned to put a wall up or whatever, those are considerations that we can't just willy-nilly stick a wall in there without knowing from the landlord what that might entail on a month-to-month lease basis if we do in fact stop the lease.
Sherry, you have a comment?
Just a couple of comments because month to month has been mentioned a couple of times with our current arrangement with the property owner, and that is correct, council. The property owner did agree to month until we can determine what council's direction is. Pending what council's direction is, we will need to go back to the property owner and ensure they're supportive of either a month to month or a short-term lease, pending what your direction is this evening. Currently, the lease does speak to leasehold improvements. If we're doing leasehold improvements and we're the leasee, then we would be responsible for those costs. So the lease is very clear right now, and it will be whether, again, whether they're interested in month to month, whether they're interested in a short-term lease, we'll have to have those conversations accordingly with the property owner.
So that also means Elephant Thoughts would have to be agreeable to a month-to-month lease, which would be their decision. Go ahead, April.
If I could, Your Worship, that's exactly it. What type of investment are they willing to make if we're not setting the term, a longer term? Like that is a discussion that we are going to have most definitely. And if I'm hearing correctly, the town would still facilitate the lease and potentially invest $10,000 a year into helping with the equipment. That would be our contribution essentially. But we're working with Elephant Thoughts to ensure all health and safety aspects are maintained, that all equipment is being upgraded accordingly or fixed or purchased that is needed. Yes, we need to think this through too, because it has to make business sense for Elephant Thoughts too. And if we're not committing to a longer term in that scenario, we will, after we talk with Elephant Thoughts, we can bring that back, what that will look like a bit further. But I just want to throw that on the table as we're having these discussions. Thank you.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, as we engage in conversations with the landlord, would we be able to try to seek their thoughts on the idea of a lease transfer at some point where it would move from the town to Elephant Thoughts if they were willing to take that over? It's my understanding, looking at their website, that they're a charitable organization. And so they would be able to issue their own donation receipts. So I guess when I look at what is the benefit of the town holding it, I see that the benefit is that it's currently zoned as a municipal property, so therefore we don't pay property tax, and we provide a charitable receipt to the landlord. So if they can provide the charitable receipt, I guess the only benefit is the property tax piece. I guess that's where I'm trying to understand why they would not want to take it over on their own.
Sorry, through your worship. Just one thought that's really popping into my mind right now is that Elephant Thoughts has campuses around the world. And we're all familiar that the closest one to us is in West Grey. They are drawn to this opportunity specifically because of the kitchen and their experiencing some barriers to further development on their Rescue property. So so the whole idea of partnering with the town and this community hub concept became very appealing to them and might change their business plan accordingly. But I just want to note, though, that this wouldn't be their only facility that they would be operating. So, and currently they're bringing youth in from urban centers to upskill them. And I have spoken to them about doing more community engagement with local youth as part of this agreement. But that is not a path that they've been down thus far. So I just want to ensure that everybody is aware of that as well.
So if Elephant Thoughts if we were not the middleman in it, and Elephant Thoughts was leasing from the property owner, they would be paying full taxes, property taxes.
I have to double, like, we've declared that as a municipal asset. Is that the best word? And so therefore the taxes are.
We've declared it as a municipal capital facility,
you, that's the
which allows them to be tax-free. However, if it goes to Elephant Thoughts, they would be eligible for charitable rebates under the taxes. So if they charge them the full taxes, whatever, they would get 40% back. And the town and the municipality and the education would get their full taxes. And then we would have to give back 40%. That's how the donation for charitable organizations work if they have to pay for taxes at all. But right now, it's a municipal capital facility where the town has declared it that way so that there would be no taxes, because part of that detailed lease agreement is that you are responsible for taxes, utilities. You are responsible basically for everything on that property. So when the taxes were due on that property, say they were round figure $3,000, you as the leaseholder have to pay the $3,000. If the water bill comes in, you are paying the water bill. If there's a problem with the roof, you fix the roof. If there's a problem with the window, you're fixing the window. That's all part of the lease. Can I ask one more thing? I just want to bring to council's attention, you had the same issue when you had the Northern Family Center. You may remember when we were leasing that. And I think you recall that you had said at that point that you do not wish to continue putting money into something that you do not own. That's something you had done years ago, but this is totally different. It's a hub that you are looking at doing. So this is an area that you're putting forward, whereas before it was for private businesses to run their organizations in that building. So that's the two differences between those. Okay.
Other comments, or shall we move on with a vote? Deputy Mayor.
Just one more comment, and that is around the follow-up of how we determine whether whatever we do here is successful. And I thank you to Sherry and April for the list of activities that we might take to check on the success of this, if whatever we decide to do. So my question is, when will that happen, and how do we monitor it going forward?
Through your worship. Well, there was quite a list of measurables, measuring our success indicators that were provided. So really, I think it's going back to what option is chosen, essentially, is going to determine how we're measuring our success. But I would just note, if we're leaning towards the Elephant Thoughts scenario, option 1, like really, I think our key indicator of success is that we've continued to leverage that space and be able to provide this programming, skill development programming for youth. All the benefits are great that we receive back, but we're not as involved in this scenario to ensure that that's all being met, what we identify as key performance indicators. For example, the number of active partnerships and co-managed programs, or the number of youth-led or community-led business initiatives that were launched. That will be all great to learn about through Elephant Thoughts. but we won't be able to mandate, you know, what those indicators are to them. So I think our biggest indicator in that scenario is that, you know, we have recognized the need, we've continued the use of this facility and the infrastructure to advance these strategic directions, and we're a key partner in that.
Thank you. And further to, I think what Councillor Fleet might have alluded to, the length of the lease, this is all stuff that has to be determined yet, I guess. And, you know, we did talk previously about our upcoming vacancy at the police building. You know, I think we need to keep that in the back of our minds that we may have a facility we own to refer to Chris's thoughts. So we don't want to tie ourselves in forever because we may have some other opportunities that are going to present themselves. And I don't know if we need to make Elephant Thoughts aware of that at this point in time. I guess that could be part of all the discussion, but I do think that has to be part of the train of thought.
Just something to think about with that as well is the actual infrastructure, like the actual capital improvements to that building. We're basing this scenario on that we can move everything to the police, and we potentially cannot do that. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't want to see us say, oh, we're going to be able to do this, and then we're not able to move that equipment and that infrastructure, or pending what this agreement looks like with Elephant Thoughts, who if they're investing into that, who owns that at the end of the day? You know what I mean? Those are some further considerations for us.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. I think the goal of supporting youth is a great outcome, but we've talked for over a decade about the out-migration issues that we have and the role of this center in supporting local youth in skill development and workforce development. And so I really think that we need to keep our eye on the center being used by local youth. I really don't want to see that this facility is being used by youth who are being brought here from other centers. There needs to be a component for youth that are local to the Hanover area.
All right, so I'm hearing favoring option 1. So we have a mover and seconder, and we are to provide staff with direction. So are we providing staff direction to investigate option 1 and come back with some answers? And the suggestion about $10,000 will have to come at budget time. So, Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, Your Worship. And also the length of the lease when you're in conversation.
That will all be looked into. They've both been taking notes here. All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of directing staff to look at option 1? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Question, do you want to break now? Do you want 15 minutes? Come back at 7 o'clock? Pardon? Oh, sorry, we'll do Vicky for the last report. You still have to hang around though. All right, one more, 10.6. This is report CL 1425. It is the subject is council appointment to Committee of Adjustment. It's from Vicky McDonald, our Manager of Legislative Services and our clerk. Mover and seconder, Councillor Sackle and Councillor Fleet. Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an appointment to the Committee of Adjustment that we make annually as is required under the Planning Act. This is a quasi-judicial body. Its decisions are independent from council and can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In accordance with the Planning Act and our procedure bylaw, we appoint members to the committee, council appoints members to the committee annually. Councillor Hudson and Cable were appointed to the Committee of Adjustment by bylaw 324922 in December 2022. And it is being recommended that they be appointed for a further year for December 1st, 2025 to November 14th, 2026. There are no financial implications. The link to the strategic plan is open. Sorry, I missed that one. Let me scroll down. Open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report CL 1425, council appointment to committee of adjustments be received, and that Councillor Carol Hudson and Councillor Brandon Cable be appointed to the committee of adjustment for the period December 1st, 2025 to November 14th, 2026.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Let's take a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 7. All right, we are back in session. It is 7 o'clock. So item 11 is committees of council minutes. This is 11.1. This is the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes. And we have, before I start that, we have 4 sets of minutes with one motion to cover this. So I need a mover and seconder, and then we'll do the individual minutes. Councillor Cable and Councillor Hudson. So we have the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory minutes. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee met on October the 8th. The committee continues to review proposed capital items for the 2026 budget, with the largest proposal being the proposed replacement of the Binkley Patterson Pavilion at Kinsman Ball Diamond. The committee reviewed options to reduce the cost from the original $1 million proposal to somewhere in the $800,000 range. A significant amount of time was spent reviewing rates and fees. Most fees are proposed to increase by 3%, while individual pool admissions are proposed to increase by 25 cents, which also impacts the cost of passes and memberships, representing a 5% increase over the current rates. Committee members discussed the future direction of the Center of Excellence Park, and there was consensus to defer any future upgrade phases until at least the 2027 budget deliberations in order to accommodate other departmental priorities, being the pavilion, and align with new committee appointments for the 2026 to 2030 council term. If there are any questions, myself or Councillor Hudson would be happy to take them.
Thank you. I don't see any hands raised, so we'll move on to 11.1.1. This is the Splash Pad Committee minutes. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is old news. This was really our final meeting, and we did a financial summary, committee feedback. I think everyone enjoyed the experience. It was a great team effort, and we adjourned at 5 p.m. So it didn't last very long. We started at 4. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Item 11.2, this is the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. The committee met on Wednesday, October the 15th, so that was a very recent meeting as to today. One of the items was the business retention and expansion study that our economic manager, April Marshall, has been working on. She's targeting 75 as our count. So far, we have just over 50 responses. This is remaining open until October 31st, and we're hoping that the data collected will help us identify some key themes, inform the development of future work plans, and provide concrete local data to support future decision-making. She also spoke to us about the downtown plan at that meeting and informed us that it was a priority in the Town of Hanover Strat Plan, and it's been supported with our budget process. A partnership has been established with the downtown improvement area. Unfortunately, the Chamber of Commerce declined to participate. A request for proposal was issued to retain a consultant, and April told us that J.L. Richards and Associates has been selected for the consultant on this project. She spoke about youth retention strategy, but since we've spent a great deal of time on that this evening, I'll skip that and I'll move on. In terms of budget considerations, money will be set aside for the future downtown plan, and it's also proposed that the community improvement program will continue with the standard amount of $40,000. As council knows, the EV charger update has happened, and she was letting the committee know that the level 3 charger on 11th Avenue on the east side of Heritage Square is now operational. Under new business, she mentioned that the lighting of the square is now planned for Friday, November the 21st. So stay tuned to also learn more about a Christmas in July event coming in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sackle. And if you could continue with the Heritage minutes, that would be good. There's 2 sets.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first set is from June the 19th meeting. And I always find it interesting with the donations that they receive. I know I've given some things too. This one is RCAF Fly Sergeant Robert Pickering and Hanover Post photo from September 14th, 1944, and some garment hangers. Sklar Pepler baseball uniforms from circa 1960s, that's before I moved here, and industry brochures from the Heinzman Piano Factory. You probably forgot we even had one of those. Various historical photos were sent in as well. They talked about the volunteer fair, which happened on June 17th. As Dave says, that's old news. The P&H Center display, the kitchenware display remains in place, but committee members have identified furniture factories as the next theme, with installation targeted for September. So I haven't seen it, but it sounds from this that it should be up and running. Al Morrow is working on a brochure and it's near completion, and he's going to provide a map to help identify graveside locations. Under new business, there's been a real discussion about a cultural center expression of interest. The committee expressed a support for the suggestion that the current police station site be considered as a potential location of a future cultural center once the police relocate to their new facility. And I strongly support that suggestion. Sorry, Councillor Fleet. Second set of minutes is September 18th. Again, donations of vintage Hanover decorative plate. Oh, B Cable, I wonder who that is. And various historical photos of Lake Rosalind were submitted as well as donations. Under recognition signs, the plaque for 305 10th Street was handed over to the new building owner, and I had to check that. That's the new at-home decor store for installation. And I'm so happy to hear that the building clock tower cleaning project finally has someone that is going to be cleaning that clock for us. So Scotia Bell from Hamilton, Ontario is coming, and that should be completed in the next 30 to 60 days. Under new business, Grit and Growth, Al Morrow presented a bound copy of his collection of approximately 50 short stories highlighting the area's history. Edits are being completed, and it was identified selling copies of the finalized compilation could be a potential fundraiser for the Historical Society. And the Hanover Historical Houses discussion continued with a Mr. Mackenzie being invited to attend the next committee meeting as a delegation to present his work researching Hanover's heritage homes. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if they've decided on a time for the lighting of the square on the 21st of November?
Councillor Hudson, I only had the date. I did not hear a time.
Councillor Fleet.
I think I understand it's 6 o'clock.
Okay, so that was the last set of minutes for that motion. It was moved by Councillor Cable, seconded by Councillor Hudson. The motion is to receive the information and approve the recommendations contained in the minutes that were just highlighted. All in favor? That is carried. Item 12 is a bylaws, and I'll ask for a mover and seconder before we have the intent of the bylaws from the clerk. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Fleet. Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number 3354-25 is a bylaw to assume certain lands as municipal roads.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw number 3354-25 be introduced and that it be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Item 13 is correspondence requiring action. 13.1 is a request from the Ontario Rett Syndrome Association of Canada asking for us for purple lighting on October 29th, and this is to recognize Rett syndrome awareness. Rett syndrome is a rare genetic neurodevelopmental disorder that primarily affects females 1 in every 10,000, and it's even rarer in males. Individuals with Rett syndrome often lose acquired skills such as speech and motor abilities. Many are unable to walk or talk and require lifelong care. Lighting up the in front of the Civic Center in purple is a powerful way to raise awareness and show solidarity with families affected by this condition. I believe we did this last year, did we? Yes, okay. So if you're in favor of that, I need a mover and a seconder to do that. Councillor Hocking and Councillor Hudson. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 14, are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, good news and celebrations. And we're going to start with Councillor Sackle and then open it up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, for those people that are celebrating, today is October the 20th, the Festival of Lights, and I'd like to say Happy Diwali Day. I have friends. I'd also like to comment on the White Dress Boutique. It was really a wonderful opportunity to see what a gorgeous store. If you haven't, even if you're not shopping for dress clothes, it's just what a wonderful space to go into. So congratulations to Sandra Lynn Baker for her new, and I suppose rebranding, I think is the word you would use, April, for her new store. There's some, a picture where a place where the bride can stand rather than have her photo taken when she says yes to the dress. It's just like watching it on TV. So that's all I'll say, because there's lots of other things that I'm sure you'll want to talk about.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention to the viewing public that this weekend out at Sulphur Springs, they're doing their trick or treat day from 1 until 4. And I understand that the parents as well as the kids dress up. They do suggest to register approximately what time you are going to be there. And hopefully the weather will be good. And our Hanover Public Library will also be out there doing their spooky story trail.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say the Mayor's Breakfast for Business, great turnout, highlighting Hanover's agribusinesses. Thank you to Blue Springs Trout Farm, Exceldor, Maple Leaf Foods, and P&H Milling. It was well attended, really great crowd, and just also thanks to the Legion ladies for putting on a great breakfast. So thank you to everybody involved.
Very good. Councillor Hocking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to inform council that I took a ride to St. Thomas with Chief Knoll and 2 other constables to look at a police station that was built there in 2017. And they used the same architects that we have employed, and it was a good trip. So thanks to the chief for taking me along. And no cuffs on too.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to express congratulations and thank you to Hanover Public Works staff and the Rotary Club who ran a very successful hazardous waste day on Saturday. It seemed to be very well attended. There was a significant line that was already there before 10 o'clock, and the process was extremely smooth. So thank you to everybody involved in that.
Okay. I'll ask staff. Anything to highlight? No? All right. Item 16 is upcoming committee meetings. The dates are listed on the agenda and the website. And I'll ask if there are any changes to the dates that are listed that council has noticed. None? Okay. Item 17 is important dates and announcements. The next regular council meeting is Monday, November 3rd at 4 p.m. And we do have a closed meeting, and it is recommended that the council of the town of Hanover meet in closed session in order to address matters pertaining to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality respecting the following: collective agreement negotiations, West Grey and Hanover Growing Prosperity negotiations, and the Hanover Bentic and Brant Agricultural Society agreement negotiations. I need a mover and a seconder before we go into closed. Councillor Hudson and Councillor Cable, all in favor. That is carried.